And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with him. $98,547.
What do you think when you see that total?
Makes me ill. I want to throw up that I was that vulnerable.
We're about to dive into a story that kicks off with what looks like a promise of love, of a real connection, but it ends in just devastating loss. It's a story that pulls back the curtain on the true, staggering cost of a lie. Just look at that number, $98,547. Now, this isn't some bad stock pick or a business deal gone south. No, this was the retirement savings of Pat Brightcruse, an 84-year-old widow from Indiana. Gone. But this story isn't just about the money. Not really. It's about the emotional web, the manipulation that made losing that money even possible. He called her my queen.
And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with him.
Think about that. He crafted this incredibly meticulous deception. And it just leaves you with this one huge question. How could this happen? Okay, so to really get how this scam worked, we have to look at the vulnerability it preyed on. Let's dig into the story of Pat Brightcruse. It all starts with a feeling I think we can all understand: loneliness. So after her husband of decades passed away in 2020, you can just imagine, the house got real quiet. The days just started to stretch out. So Pat did what millions of people do. She joined a dating website, just hoping to fill those quiet days with some connection. And that's where she met him, a guy who called himself Louis. He said he was 62, in the construction business, and living up in Montreal. So when Pat, who was 83 at the time, brought up her age, this is what he said. Age was just a number.
And I told him I was 83 at the time. And he says, oh, age is just a number. I don't care.
Now you have to understand that wasn't just some sweet compliment. It was a perfectly targeted piece of validation. I mean, after you've lost someone, that feeling of being chosen again, it's unbelievably powerful. For Pat, that one little phrase, it meant absolutely everything. All right, so here's the thing. The scammer was smart. He didn't ask for money on day one, right? That would have been a huge red flag. No, instead, he played the long game. He invested 6 whole months in just building this fake relationship, carefully constructing a foundation of trust before he even thought about asking for a single dime. And you can see how it ramped up. It started out pretty casual, first contact. But then it became a daily thing. A constant stream of texts. He was building this powerful sense of consistency, of dependency. It wasn't until after he dropped the I love you that the first requests for money finally started to trickle in. There was a formula to this, a real playbook. Step 1, isolate the target. He claimed, get this, that an old accident made phone calls hard for him, so they had to text. That's a classic tactic, right? It lets him control the entire narrative. Step 2, create that consistency. Good morning, my queen, every single day. Step 3, establish intimacy, the I love yous. And finally, step 4, lower her defenses by getting her to imagine this wonderful, shared future together. So when the money requests did start, they were small. They were always framed as these short-term business complications. Things like cash flow problems, a client payment that was late, that kind of thing. But really, each check she sent was a test. And they just kept escalating a little bit more each time until they added up to that staggering $98,000 figure.
$98,547.
Now, this whole illusion, it wasn't perfect. It had actually been tested before. At one point, he even sent a fake plane ticket and then, of course, never showed up. But she explained it away.
I said, now let me know when you arrive so I can come pick you up. And he never did.
It's amazing what we can rationalize when we want to believe something. But the next request, wow. It was so audacious, so over the top, that it finally broke the spell. $500,000. Can you believe it? After getting almost $100,000 in these smaller chunks, he went for the whole shebang. And a request that big, it just felt different. It wasn't like the other asks that were all wrapped up in affection and sweet promises. This was something else. And to make this $500,000 request seem legit, he sent an official-looking contract. But this little detail, the very thing he thought would build trust, turned out to be his biggest mistake. Because the business address on it wasn't in Montreal, where he supposedly lived. Nope. It was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and that That was close enough for Pat to do something she'd never done before, go and check for herself. So she got in her car and she drove to that address. And what did she find? Nothing. No office, no company, not even a real building. It was a totally bogus address, just an empty lot. And that was the first huge, undeniable crack in the whole story. The lie was finally out in the open. And guess what happened next? The second he realized no more money was coming, he was gone.
And then he stopped calling, he stopped texting. After about 30 days, when he realized I didn't have any more money.
Vanished. The 6 months of daily contact, those "Good morning, my queen" texts, the "I love yous," it all just stopped. Just like that. It was the ultimate confirmation that his only motivation the entire time was the money. So Pat's story is, of course, a deeply personal tragedy. But it's also a perfect case study in a massive global criminal enterprise that's happening all the time. So let's pull back a bit and look at the actual anatomy of a scam like this. Yeah, a romance scam isn't a smash and grab job. These people are patient. They invest a ton of time to create real emotional dependency. And once the victim truly believes the relationship is real, they'll defend it. They'll rationalize away all the red flags. And it's not because they're foolish. Not at all. It's because they are so emotionally invested. And you have to realize, these are incredibly sophisticated operations we're talking about. They're usually based offshore, they use stolen photos, fake identities, they can whip up official-looking documents. And in a lot of these cases, the person you're texting with one week might not even be the same person the next week. It's just a team of people, all following a script. So once the truth was out and the scammer just disappeared, Pat was left to deal with the real cost of this lie. And that cost, it went so much deeper than just what was missing from her bank account.
Makes me feel horrible, makes me feel dirty, makes me feel stupid.
It's like she was attacked on two fronts at once. On one hand, you have the absolutely devastating financial loss, her retirement savings, her security, just gone. But then on the other hand, you have this brutal emotional toll, the embarrassment, the self-doubt, and this really unique kind of grief. I mean, how do you mourn a relationship that was never even real? Now, Pat did everything right. She filed reports with the local police, with the FBI. But the sad reality is, getting the money back in these cases is incredibly rare. She's not very hopeful she'll ever see it again. But you know what? She is confident that she'll find real love one day.
Do you think you'll find love again?
Oh yeah, but not that way. I'll never be scammed again.
This time, though, with a lot more caution. And this, right here, is the absolute key to understanding all of this. These romance scams, they don't start with money. They begin with validation. The crime doesn't kick off with a financial transaction. It kicks off by exploiting one of our most fundamental human needs, the need for attention, for connection, the need to feel chosen. And that really leaves us with the big question at the heart of this whole story, doesn't it? How much is attention worth? It's a question that really forces you to think about the value we all place on connection. And it's just a stark, powerful reminder of how that universal feeling of loneliness can so easily lower our defenses, leaving us vulnerable to people who want nothing more than to exploit it.